Eliza, thank you so much for joining us. You are running for U.S. Congress, right?
Yes, that's correct. U.S. Congress, Congressional District 15.
Now, can you tell us, okay, Congressional District 15, that's a new district, right?
It's sort of new. It's been redistricted, so the lines were moved slightly, but it still looks like a little fajita strip going down from South Texas all the way up to Seguin. So it did get redistricted and some of the constituents were moved out, but it still looks like it has the past couple of cycles. It's just a little thinner this time and longer.
What are some of the major cities that fall into that district?
So I have Sullivan all the way to the city of Pharr.
Okay.
And then north. So that would be Edinburgh, Brooks County, Jim Wells County, Wilson, Carnes, Live Oak. So it goes all the way up to Seguin.
Okay. Got it.
And you seem like a very qualified person. You have your PhD. You've worked in politics. Why are you running for Congress?
I think one of the main reasons that I'm running is to make a difference for our community. I've been a community advocate probably the past 20 years and have worked with a member of Congress and also have worked in the community doing voter registration through ACT, the Advocacy Alliance Center of Texas. We actually registered close to 20,000 youth, and it's actually the information that I used to write my dissertation.
Oh, cool. What's your dissertation on?
Voter turnout in the youth here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Brings us to a good point. No one down here votes, right, Sonny?
I mean, some people vote. What is the issue there? What exactly? So your dissertation was on voter turnout, but what specifically about voter turnout?
So basically what we did is we did different voter turnout tactics on the youth to see what would most motivate them to go out to vote. So we did texting, we did calling, we did in person, and once we were able to reach them after the third time, the propensity for them to increase voter turnout skyrocketed.
How did you reach them?
We would text them, we would go visit them in their home,
Okay.
We would call them. And so what we found out was that it was just disengagement and not necessarily apathy towards voting. And really, for our community, what's important to note is we have areas of the same state, like Fort Bend, that votes at almost 80%, where we typically vote during a primary anywhere between 20 to 30%.
Wow.
So a lot of the funding in the Fort Bend area is so much more increased because the representation there is able to leverage the voter turnout and is able to leverage funds because the people, the constituency, rise up and they request it. And because they vote, it matters. Voting is a pattern, and our youth need to get into the pattern of voting, and engaging them in issues that are important to them is what's going to be the key.
Yeah.
Graduated from South Texas ISD, Med High. Initially, I thought I was going to be a physician. So I went to Texas Women's University, and I actually have an undergrad in science because I took science all through my junior and senior year. Then I took a government course, and it was like I had seen the skies parted, and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I know you want me to be a physician, but I took this government course and it's just, amazing. And so I decided then that I wanted to be in public service, and I applied to George Washington. They had a political management program, and it's a funny story. I typed in write your rep, and I emailed the congressman, and I said, my name is Eliza. I'm from Pharr, Texas. I don't have a job, but I just got into the school, and I wondered if you could help me. And my friends, of course, made fun of me and said, nobody's going to call you back. You know, those things are automated. You get automated, returns. So I was packing, and it was about 2 days before my parents helped me move to Washington. And it was back in the days before we had iPhones. So it was the flip phones,
Right.
And so the phone rang. It was about 6 a.m. And I turned around in the bed and I opened it up and it said, "Hi, this is Congressman Ruben Hinojosa," and I hung up. And I was just like, I can't believe my friends are doing this. It is 6 a.m. And the phone, it rang again. And he said, "We were disconnected. This is Congressman Ruben Doop." And I hung up again. So the third time it rang, I was just like, okay. I turned on the light. I got up. I looked, and it said 202, which is a DC number. My blood pressure dropped to the ground. I opened the phone, and he said, "This is the last time and I said, "I'm so sorry, sir. I thought it was a joke." He's like, "If you want a position, you can come to my district office and you can interview. Thank you so much for your time." And so I went to the district office, and back then it was in the tax office in McAllen. And they have those little ship windows. So I was sitting down outside, and everybody was looking through the little ship window at me. And I asked the lady in the front, her name was Norma Brewster. I said, "Norma, why is everybody looking at me through the window?" And she said, "Well, honey, you hung up on the congressman 3 times. I said, "Oh, no." But it ended up that I got the position, and I moved to D.C., and there started my career in public service. I worked myself up from a staff assistant to the office administrator to legislative aide. I worked for an organization called the ARC of Dallas, which helps students with disabilities. I learned a lot about kids with disabilities and the programs that they're in. Some of the kids are waiting up to 10 years for services. So wow. I really had an epiphany there. And I thought about back home, and I thought about, if this is the case here in North Texas, can you imagine back home? And I had the opportunity then to apply for employment at the Department of Labor, Office of Federal Contract Compliance. And I worked there. And we did federal audits. Unfortunately, while I was in Dallas, my father had kidney failure. And so I decided it was time for me to come back home. And so I did. I moved back home. I got a position to start this organization, ACT, the Advocacy Alliance Center of Texas, and did that for 3 years. I got a job at DHR at the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I worked in the education department, and I helped write a skills development grant for about $2.7 million. It was the largest grant at that time to help with career pipelines in health science. And after I did that, I got the education bug, and somebody from Region 1 said, "Hey, would you like to work at Region 1? We have a position for Pathways and Grants Coordinator." And I said, "Absolutely." So I've been there for going on 5 years now.
Wow. What's your take on charter schools? Because I know that there's quite a few coming up here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Well, I definitely believe in public education. Right. I think that no matter what zip code the students are in, they should receive the best top quality education. Charter schools, in my opinion, take away from funding for that. But there are options for parents to have their kids in charters. And I do think that having an option should also be something that the community should have if the public school district isn't performing.
Oh, Eliza, I mean, do you know what you're getting involved in? Like right now, like you look online, you read the newspapers, like the parties are just so divided on so much stuff. It seems like they fight over like everything. When you come in to Congress, what's going to be your view on that divisiveness or I don't know what they call it, just people just being like angry or not willing to work with each other.
I think about that a lot, but I also think about, kind of what my parents have always told me, that politics are local, and I'm not going to go to DC to fix the world's divisive problems on partisanship. I'm going to DC to represent District 15 and the needs in our district. And our people here want to work together. When I went to go visit Massachusetts, there's a college every 2 blocks.
That's crazy. And they're beautiful.
And they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And, we need to have more opportunities here for our kids. And we need to have the same level. We need to level the playing field for them. And I think getting a medical school was a great start. But I also think it's important that we not just have a medical school and then not have any of our kids actually go to that medical school.
Exactly. Right. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, what I've noticed is just more people from out of town getting into our medical school down here and going.
Elisa, do you think like there are like certain words that are used in politics that if you say like those words, that's what everyone campaigns off of? Like immigration, abortion. What's another big one, Sonny, where you just throw it out and like people are ready to fight?
Border wall.
Border wall.
Border wall.
Voter ID.
Yeah. Do you feel like those are really big issues, or are people just like focusing too much on those heated like issues and missing the real picture, like the economy, education, stuff like that? What do you think?
I think yes.
I agree.
I agree with you. I think that those are issues that bring out really intense feelings, but that don't necessarily cover the spectrum of what the community needs. We need jobs, and it's funny because you say the economy, and I always think back to the Clinton administration where they said it's the economy, stupid, and it's absolutely right. It fuels the engine of our community. So yes, I do think people throw out those issues as a way to bring out these intense feelings. But I do think that they're important. I just think that there are more than 1 or 2 issues that are important as a whole in our community.
I feel like back on this same point, and I'm beating a dead horse with this crowd probably, but I just feel like there's a ton of useless litigation that's being slung around just for the sake of making a political point and just for the sake of making constituents feel like they're getting the ball rolling, at least in some direction, with regard to those major hot button issues, at least on the state side. Like one of the things that annoyed the crap out of me in Texas was and I'm not anti-gun by any means. I have a closet full. I hunt a ton. But it's like, hey, everybody else is talking about gun control, and Texas goes, nah, we're going to do open carry. What was that for? Concealed carry worked just fine, right? And it's just to dig their heels even deeper. I don't get it. And when they could be working on education, they can be working on figuring out how to keep teachers.
Keep teachers.
How to keep teachers. I mean, I was just discussing
the bridge that's falling apart.
Teachers are the unsung heroes, right?
For sure.
And because of the situation with the pandemic, they're having to deal with mitigating all of this learning loss that our students are now facing. I believe the teachers are the backbone of not only education, but our community as a whole. We need to have more federally funded programs that help teachers mitigate this learning loss, particularly because of the pandemic, and right now with social emotional learning as well. I mean, they have to deal with students having a hard time just coming back from the virtual environment.
Yeah.
And in terms of fighting for people, you have a black belt in karate.
I do. I actually, when my parents moved to Othello, Washington when I was 7, and I didn't know English. So I was always, my sister and I were always kind of angry because we couldn't communicate, and we were unable to communicate in our classes. And my parents decided that they wanted us to channel that anger some other way. So they put us in karate. And it was one of the best things that could have happened for me. And I learned a lot about meditation. I learned a lot about self-discipline, and, got to go to tournaments. And it was absolutely an amazing experience for me. So for those parents out there looking for an outlet for their kids, I definitely recommend it. It definitely helped me a lot.
I know, Sonny, you're dying to ask her a karate question.
On
You're
a scale
dying.
of 1 to 10, how similar is it to Cobra Kai on Netflix?
Definitely not. Definitely not Cobra Kai, but it's similar in that you have a lot of the structure, and you're able to channel a lot of your energy and maybe sometimes your anger or your rage in a way that's productive for you.
Now, in this race, there's a lot of people running.
There
right?
are.
There's how many candidates running?
There's a total of 6 of us.
And what separates you think, from everybody else?
I would have to say experience. Experience at the state level, experience at the national level, experience in community advocacy and work. And also, I have a passion for the community and for advocating for the community. And I think that unless you can connect the passion to actual substance, I think it's just rhetoric. And I think that when you have someone who's actually been in the trenches and has worked, I think that matters. And I think sending somebody to Washington with experience is going to make a difference.
Absolutely. There's less of a learning curve for sure.
Did you ever see that movie, like, what is it, Mr. George Goes to Washington? Or
When I was like a junior in high school, I think.
right?
I don't think it was Mr. George, though.
Was it?
I think
What
you got
was
another
it?
name wrong.
Yeah, it was.
I know which one you're talking about. I just can't think of the
Mr.
name.
Smith goes to...
Well, I'm nothing.
Smith, Jones, something.
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause. Even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the tailors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to
His
me.
last words were, "I'm licked. You think you got me licked?"
I think that's the same movie.
No, Jimmy Stewart. I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy Stewart. But how do you think your first year of Congress is going to be?
We don't have a fact checker today, so...
Well, I definitely think that it's going to be a learning experience for me, but I also think it's going to be a time of building coalitions and relationships with other members of Congress that are from the state of Texas, perhaps from the Hispanic caucus, members of Congress that are like-minded and that can give me advice on introducing or co-authoring pieces of legislation that would be meaningful for my community.
I like the idea of focusing on the district. However, your district is much bigger than the Rio Grande Valley. What's it been like campaigning in those northern cities?
It's been hard. And a lot of the issues that I've heard are completely different than here in South Texas.
What are some of the issues they're talking about?
So when I first visited Seguin, one of the first things that they talked about was, what am I going to do about racial segregation? What am I going to do about...
Who's asking these questions?
It's different people. There's community members, there's council members, I spoke with the mayor. I spoke with advocates that work with civil rights projects there. And, you know, they asked me, they're African American, you know, what are you going to do about police brutality?
That's
Right, that's a
that's
you
a
know,
big one.
and here, you know, we have more of a homogenous culture where
We do.
we're Latinos, we're Hispanics. In the Northern District, there's a separation, and it was very apparent when I went. And if you don't take the time to go to the Northern District and to actually meet with them, you'll never know.
With District 15 and the other districts, I can't recall. Has there ever been a woman?
No. There's never been a female representative in South Texas for Congress.
So if you win, you would be the first
I would be the
woman.
first.
That's very cool. That's really interesting stuff. I like your platform a lot. I like this. I mean, I love your parents saying that, you know, politics is about helping the district that you represent, right? I feel like too many politicians get lost in these hot button issues. I don't know what they're trying to do just for the sake of becoming more popular, what have you. I like this. I mean, I like that you're paying attention to each individual city in your district, and all the needs are going to be different. And I think that's where we need to start.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on space? Outer space.
Come the alien questions.
Well, I mean, our neighbor right next to us, although not in your district, we have SpaceX, right? And the federal government has been increasing their funding in space programs. So what?
They've also been releasing more and more UFO footage.
That is true. That's true. But what are your thoughts on the space programs? And if you do get put on one of these committees that has like oversight on space programs or a budget committee?
Well, I'm not sure that I would actually get put on those committees as a freshman member, but I definitely think that investing in space and in science in general is very important. I think that we need to, as I said before, level the playing field, and not just in workforce or education, but also in science and space in general. I think that it's important to invest in those programs. I think that they are the future. And I think that if given the opportunity, I would definitely advocate for more funding for those programs.
What we really wanted you to say is you'll definitely get on one of those committees and then allow me and Sunny full access to Area 51.
Well, that's definitely a constituent request that I will definitely take into consideration.
What's your favorite movie?
So my favorite movie, I thought about this a lot before coming here because I had a dilemma. So if it's just one movie, it would be The Color Purple. If I could do like a trilogy or other types of movies, I love Harry Potter. I love Lord of the Rings. You know, I'm big fan of Star Wars.
Controversial question. What's your favorite food?
So I love all food Mexican, but I would have to say chile relleno is my favorite food.
That's a good one.
Sunny?
That's a good one.
Did you pass your food test?
Yeah, that's
good.
legit. What's your favorite song?
So that one was a hard one too. But I would have to say that Adele, Rolling in the Deep.
You just got.
I hate to admit this, but
You
I've
just
been
gotta
listening
vote.
to a lot of Adele lately.
That's it.
I love her. I just love her.
On the drive up, I like her new song, and it's about, I guess it's about her getting married too early, right? She was too young, and so we're driving up and we're listening to the song, and my wife goes, she's so whiny. I can't stand this song. So what? You got married too early. So did I. Here I am sucking it up. I'm not crying about it in a song. And I was like, thanks, babe.
And with that one answer, you just got Sunny's vote.
Yeah.
All right.
Adele's legit. Adele's legit.
Adele. And political races can be very expensive. and you currently have a website up, right?
I do. I have a website, alvaradoforcongress.com, and I am not independently wealthy. So I don't have a lot of funding for my race, but I have been able to raise some funds. And one of the things I think is funny is, they were asking me, signs are so expensive. And I was telling one of my opponents in one of the events, I said, do you know if you buy T-Post, if you buy more than 80, you can actually get them for $4.80 each as opposed to $6.20 each. That's how much I know about really being mindful of spending. And that's what my campaign really is about, is getting the message out, but at the same time being mindful that I'm not a millionaire and I'm not going to be able to run $1 million campaign. But I don't think we need to run $1 million campaign. I think we just need to run a meaningful one.
Sure. Look, campaigns, they're tough, right? Because you go around talking to a bunch of people, but you end up talking to the people that are pretty much already on your side for the most part, right? They're probably mostly going to be Democrats if they're willing to sit down and talk to you. What message do you want to say to the Republican voters?
I think that to the Republican voters, I would like to say that they should vote for a candidate that's going to work with both sides of the aisle in Washington. I think that it's important that they know that even though I'm running as a Democrat, I understand that Republicans also make up our district, and it's important to listen to their concerns as well. And when you're running in a primary, obviously you're appealing to your Democratic base, but after the primary, you're running in a general.
Sure.
And so it's important that everyone know that their voice should be heard, and you should vote for a candidate that you feel would listen to your concerns regardless of political affiliation.
This is the first time that I'm meeting you. I don't know if you've ever
it's the
met her.
first- yeah.
And you are not what I expected at all. Like, I expected someone more like hoity-toity, not really.
Expected a PhD.
Yeah.
Not that you're not a PhD, but
You got that PhD, and you are just so down to earth. You know the issues, and it really feels like your heart's like in the right place.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and to talk to viewers and let them know that, this campaign is important for me for many reasons, but the most important, I think, is to be a good representative for the people of District 15